Hey there, welcome. Today's video is going to be about fearlessness. And it's probably one of the more important qualities that naturally gets expressed when we have realizations, whether it's in the kind of time frame that we have them, or if we ever end up sustaining them. It's kind of just a natural byproduct of that enlightenment or awakenment or God realization. And I'll explain why that is. But I also just want us to kind of think about infinity, think about the boundlessness of reality. Try to not think about the universe in terms of scientific terms, in terms of pictures we've seen about galaxies and space, or ideas about physical laws, matter, electrons, protons. The reason being is we got all that information with sensations that we know are limited. We know we can't see everything and hear everything. And so we just operate as we can. That's fine. That's just the cards we've been dealt in this infinite universe. But to conceptualize the universe and existence and infinity with these reductionist forms of data, it's not going to really get us to where we're trying to go or get us to realize what's here. So think about all that we don't know. Think about the mystery of this. Where did existence come from? What allows everything to be? What makes it so we can have these different experiences, these feelings of sadness, feelings of anxiety and tension, feelings of laughter and joy? But don't give a point. Don't think of a memory. Don't think of an event that we react to. Just kind of this ambiguous, abstract contemplation about existence, about us being here right now. Don't even think that we're in a body. Don't limit in this way. And that's hard. That's not easy. And I get that. But when we can just kind of loosen that a little bit and just be like, okay, I move these things, whatever these things are, I feel something, but I don't need to label it a body. I don't need to think I'm limited by that body. I don't need to believe that I am the body. And that's one of the first steps towards just expanding consciousness to the spaciousness. And having this sense of embrace towards the unknown. If we can do that, just that ambiguous acceptance of something beyond our skin, beyond the words we give things, beyond the body, and kind of experience a tiny sensation of spaciousness, and accept that it's mysterious. We don't know it. Anything could happen in that spaciousness. We don't know. We can really tap into a part of consciousness that is innately fearless. We only start to fear really when we're in that separation, when we are totally convinced that bodies are limited, that death is a limit, an end. We're totally attached to material things that have a limit and we're just afraid of their loss. So we try to maintain this kind of stagnant, regurgitated reality that looks the same every day or the same every year, and try to maintain and hold it because we're afraid of the limitless. We attached onto this idea of a life, of specific pleasures, of specific events and experiences, and that's a limited view of existence, and we're just so hooked into that. And we've been taught to do that, pretty much every human for like a real long time has been doing that and teaching their kids to do that. It's nobody's fault. It's just part of what's happening. But if we can just not be afraid, if we can trust that crazy thing that created us and allows all of this to exist can do so much more than we think it can, we can start to have this sense of faith, this sense of it's going to be all right, even if it is awful. Because even the awful things are only going to be temporary, but even during anything that I would call awful, I'm just infinite, and my infinitude is never lessened or worsened. Doesn't even get better. It's just perpetually amazing. The more we practice non-dual realization, realizing that every aspect of our experience is completely one with something so powerful, so immense, and super smart, the easier it is to just let go of worries. Let go of like future perceptions that are negative, and then we react to that, not reacting to prospect of having less money, less stuff, pain, disease, unfortunate events come our way. We don't need to, because we'll realize that infinity is so fucking smart and so fucking powerful that it already orchestrated everything that makes our existence better. It makes us realize love and bliss and joy and the ground of being. Everything's orchestrated for infinite sentient beings to do this, because infinity has no, limit. It has no that's as much as I can do for the day, I'm tapping out. That's not how infinity works. That's not how existence works. And I know I say infinity a lot, and I imagine most people will still kind of have this distance, infinity has a distance from them. It's like a separate thing, but it's like it bleeds through our entire body, through our bones, through our mind, through all of our feelings, through the center of our focus, behind our attention and awareness, above, below. It's just what permeates everything. And there's not a single thing we can point at that isn't that. And that's one thing we really need to do. Because I see people practicing yoga, people meditating, people teaching, people running retreat centers and even monasteries, or ashrams, or little villages. But I still see all this fear. I see it in myself, I see it in my close proximity, and I see it within every subculture. But if the spiritual message is to come out and like make ground to make a better world, it can't come from people afraid of being poor, afraid of not having luxury, afraid of, a slightly lower standard of living, afraid of unknowns. It just won't work. The spiritual message will just be washed away. It won't make impact because it's going to come from people that are just using it to try and give themselves comfort, try to appease the fear with a band-aid without actually letting go of the fear. And then that fear is going to lurk, and then it's going to make proper action not happen. Proper action, it's going to look like many things, but it'll maybe look like activism sometimes. It'll look like helping people selflessly other times. It'll look like growing food together and maintaining a reality so that people are safe and healthy without us needing excess. It'll look like moderation, and it'll look like abundance. It'll look like a lot of stuff. But it's kind of hard to change the world if we're afraid of it. If we're afraid of changing our lifestyle to be something that might be a little bit less like shiny, less wealthy, maybe even less secure in some ways. But it could also be better. Like good things might happen. It's infinity after all. But if we let go of that fear and we let go of it together, that's when we can really strike at the core of what the planet needs. Strike at the core of what our present heart needs at every moment to really experience that divine reality. Because it's not separate. The world and earth and mountains and trees and air and water and ocean, they're not separate from the divine reality either. And they're not just like figments of our imagination. They are part of existence, and we are part of that existence. But our fears keep us in these little boxes. They keep us hoarding resources and materials, and they keep us repeating the same days over and over again. They keep us from making connections and cooperating with effective action to change things for the better. They keep spiritual communities greedy and focused on the wrong things. And that's not a universal statement, obviously. I never want anything I say to sound like a universal statement towards every human and every, image of what I'm talking about. But we don't need to be afraid. I made a video on the fear and anger, and I kind of made a video on how not to be angry. But there's also how not to fear. It's all taken care of. Even if we make a mistake, it's taken care of. We will realize this impulse within ourselves, this conscience or intuition or even just reasoning capacity will stir if we just keep making mistakes and we keep suffering, we keep seeing suffering. It's a self-correcting mechanism, the universe, existence, love, infinity, God, what have you. And we're just part of it. Every aspect of us is part of it. And every aspect of us is a doorway to use that infinity. There's not a single part of our being that can't blossom like a dahlia, spreading a petal in every direction beautifully. Our breath, our muscles, our thoughts, our intentions, our emotions, our mistakes, our habits. Everything can be a spot in where we access God, where we access this bounty, and then move from there, not moving towards images, not moving towards like buffering a reality to appease our fears and anxieties and worries, but just taking by the reins that love right now and being fearless in the face of nothing but ourselves, nothing but the Lord of love, a boundless being that allows all things to exist as part of its infinitude, and we can dance with that and be that. And so the fearlessness it takes some faith, because there's going to be things we don't know, things we can't control, and it's kind of better that way. It's kind of more fun, and it's better that a smarter, boundless, immortal existence takes the reins of everything, rather than like us with our limited worldviews and limited desires. So be fearless, make mistakes, realize God through that process. We don't need to worry about money. We don't even need to worry about like having desires met. Like we don't even need to be afraid of displeasure or afraid of like not having fun, afraid of boredom, afraid of listlessness. And when we dance with that true fearlessness that isn't hedonistic and it's impulsive, and it's also not like diving headfirst into like making money and just being a slave to the societal whims, the fearlessness can blossom in a way that lets us have insight, that lets us have wisdom, and it brings us, doesn't bring us actually, it co-manifests with the infinite the reality that is perpetually amazing, even in the hardships. Because we're kind of in a spot in the world where people need help in so many different ways, from physical health to mental health to just like fiscal help, just like needing financial stability and needing soul help, needing help just having enough survival buffers so that they can listen to their self and not just be a slave, part of some workforce that makes this treadmill go. And at the same time, people don't need to be afraid if they're part of it for a bit. Infinity isn't less just because we go to work, just because we have to eat, just because there's really bad stuff happening on planet Earth. And so fearlessness is kind of this delicate line of presence, of not really craving things, of not, needing to worry too much about what other people worry about. You don't really care about your image. It's like you're not really afraid to act and like help the world, but you're also not afraid of what's happening. So there's this, it's very subtle. It will look like different things, like many of the things I speak about. But we know it as we feel it. We know when we're worried and anxious and afraid of an outcome, a conflict, a pain, some discomfort. And so as that happens in our daily life, it'll happen for lots of people all the time. Just step back and realize that you're infinite regardless of what happens. And that's kind of better. And so love Love as things happen. And don't be afraid. Thank you so much for watching. Om Sai Ram.